A brazen Taliban attack on a major Afghan National Army base in northern Afghanistan in the city of MAZAR-I-SHARIF has already killed some 140 Afghan soldiers. It's probably one of the worst attacks that the Afghan forces have faced since the 9/11 terror attacks in the US and the start of the war in Afghanistan. What we know so far is that a group of about 10 Taliban attackers who were in military vehicles and wearing army uniforms got past several security checkposts and entered a corps headquarters in MAZAR-I-SHARIF, which is one of the four Afghan cities where India has a consulate. These men walked in and they triggered explosions, they opened fire, they targeted soldiers who were in a dining hall and in a mosque. And we know that there are 140 confirmed casualties, but there are reports suggesting that the death toll could be as high as 170. Now, this is a pretty brazen attack, and it's also significant because the Taliban have claimed that at least 4 of the attackers involved in this attack were people who had served in the Afghan army and then had defected. So, they had inside information about how the army functions. This is, of course, a serious security breach, and it shows how far the Taliban have been able to infiltrate the Afghan forces. It's also significant because usually the Taliban winds down its fighting in Afghanistan during the winter months, but last year in 2016 was probably the first time that the Taliban really didn't stop the fighting during the winter, and the fighting continued throughout the winter months. There were several major attacks, and this is going to put increasing pressure on the Afghan forces. Any military which has to be in top form has to allow its soldiers to take breaks for both training and for rest. But the Afghan forces have had absolutely no respite in the last few years. They have been struggling to contain Taliban insurgency in a number of provinces. And in fact, the attack that was carried out yesterday was in an area that is believed to be far more secure than other parts of Afghanistan. So in that sense, the attack on the corps headquarters in MAZAR-I-SHARIF is very, very significant. Also, Afghanistan has persistently blamed Pakistan for backing militant groups within its territory. This time, no fingers have as yet been pointed against Pakistan, but this attack is going to add to the tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it's also going to complicate the process to try and bring the Taliban to the negotiating table. There are already several processes to try and get the Taliban on board for peace talks. In fact, Pakistan, Russia and China are pushing a drive to start negotiations with the Taliban. Afghanistan hasn't been very, very keen on these talks because Afghan leaders believe that there should be an end to violence before any sort of talks can begin.